A warm welcome to this webinar, the Global Coffee Platform's Field Days webinar series. Today it will take you to Brazil, where we will share with you the initiative on improving the living and working conditions in the Brazilian coffee producing sector, which you will also have seen as the social well-being initiative. As participants are pouring in, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Caroline Glofka. I'm the member manager and corporate partnerships. Please let me make you aware that this webinar is being recorded so that we can also share it later with participants who weren't able to join today. Looking at who's already here, it's really from all around the world. I see people have joined here from Vietnam, from the UK, Switzerland, from Germany, the US, Brazil, from the Netherlands, France, Colombia, Austria and Italy, Costa Rica, and many more countries from various organizations and companies. I see represented here traders, roasters, producers, civil society, institutes and associations, and many more. A warm welcome. We're excited to have you in these challenging times, really. With me today, I'd like to introduce my colleague Pedro Ronca, who will take you through this webinar. He's the GCP Brazil Program Manager. And as additional guests in this webinar, we will have Annette Penzel, the Global Coffee Platform's Executive Director, and Lilian Vandrametov, the Sustainability Manager at Secafe. With me as well as Murcia Silva, the Executive Director at Impacto, Michelle Bhattacharya, the CEO of OnUp. As well, we have here Stephanie Daniels, the Senior Program Manager from the Sustainable Food Lab. A warm welcome to you. It's great to have you with us. Quickly having a look at the agenda of today's webinar. And please, thank you. We will look at this collective action initiative and the context of it. What are collective action initiatives of the Global Coffee Platform, especially here the social well-being initiative in Brazil. The guest speakers will share their experience on these topics, and we will, of course, have a question and answer session. You can continuously use the question and answer box to put in your questions, and we will get to them at the end of this webinar and answer them. And then, of course, we finish off with next steps. With that, I'd like to hand over to my colleague, Annette Penzel. Thank you. Please enjoy the webinar.
Thank you very much. Thank you for joining our webinar today. As Caroline mentioned, we are living quite unprecedented times due to coronavirus and COVID-19, times full of turbulence and also drastic developments worldwide, impacting our lives and the well-being and economic conditions with consequences that we probably can't fully estimate yet. We at the Global Coffee Platform therefore believe that in these times, it's even more important to stay strong as global coffee community and to continue to work together, even work harder and in new ways towards what we are all striving for, a thriving and sustainable coffee sector for generations to come. Our members and the public-private country coffee platforms are doing this, addressing pressing sustainability challenges together to bring about that tangible change in coffee farming communities that we want to see more and even better in all parts of the coffee community. For example, this is being done with GCP collective action initiatives. And today we're going to hear from the colleagues about an exciting new one in Brazil that is looking at improving social well-being in Brazil's coffee producing sector, particularly looking at the workers' benefits. We invite you to learn more and to join the action. Importantly, this new initiative that we are introducing to you today is also looking at incorporating some COVID-19 related measures and actions such as health and safety awareness raising for Brazilian coffee growers and especially the workers through different communication channels. Regarding Brazil starting coffee harvest, the coffee community is quite concerned with possible implications also from COVID-19 on Brazil's coffee supply, being the biggest coffee producing country and also one of the biggest coffee consumers, of course. As we have one of our big partners for this initiative in the call, represented by Lilian Vendrametto. This is Secafé, the Brazilian Coffee Exporters Council. In the different capacity, I would like to invite Lilian to say a few words about, like how does Secafé look at the current conditions in terms of transport and coffee shipments and the perspectives there for the upcoming harvest in COVID times. Thank you, Lilian, for sharing with our TCP members and other participants a few words of insight, and then we are going right away to dive into the topic of our initiative today.
Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. I'm Lilian from Secafé. Secafé is Brazilian Coffee Exporters Council. We stay at São Paulo state, but we have projects around all the country. And we support the industry operation through data intelligence and exchange, strategic and legal initiatives, and also the social and environmental projects. As our members, we have around 120 exported company, and it's around 90% of all the green coffee exportation from Brazil. And we have the shipments around all the world. I think it's around 150 countries for the last 5 years. So it's a lot, and we are proud of it. Now I am considering the coronavirus and all the environmental time that we are now. I think everybody is worried about it, but in fact, I can feel comfortable with it, not comfortable with the coronavirus for sure, but with the coffee consumption and also the coffee exportations, because the volumes that we exported in the first quarter, about 3.2 million bags each month, we are almost the same comparing to the other last year, 2019. So we can conclude that we are considering the same period, we are almost the same, and our logistic operation, it's okay. So the Minister of Infrastructure here in Brazil and also the Minister of Agriculture, they are working well. So the shipments are okay, the ports are okay, and the destination will not be impacted by coronavirus, maintaining all the regulation of all the season of time that we have the harvest. So everything is working well. So the supply chain of all the supply chain and all the external supply will be all right. So that's good for us. And I hope we come back to the, how can I say, the regular time, the common time as soon as we can. Thank you.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good night for everybody that is joining. We're very happy to be here with more than 100 people joining. Thanks, everyone. I'm Pedro Ronca, managing Brazil program for GCP since 2013. It's been a long ride, but we are very glad and excited to have you here today, and especially after building this initiative for quite a long time, more than 1.5 years now, and bringing to you what we accomplished as this initiative. So I would like first to thank GCP Bonn team for all the support in organizing this, but also Brazil Coffee Platform and our governance structure here, our National Advisory Board and our Brazil Working Group that both supported a lot building this initiative, bringing ideas and suggestions that we incorporated, and also especially our partners Lilian at Secafe, and Mercia that will speak later. Thanks a lot for both of you for the partnership. So let's start here just with some background and a timeline for reference on where these social issues begin. We could say that one first major step was the Don't Watch report that created a lot of impact in the coffee chain all over the world, and also in Brazil in 2016, where this issue of social conditions for workers and farmers in Brazil was raised. Then 2017, Impacto, together with CRS, started a project called Mesa do Café Brasil. This project started in 2017 and created a working group also that is led by Impacto. This working group we were part of as GCP and also Secafe. And also 2018, Impacto launched a sectorial pact for eradicating or improving working conditions in the coffee sector. Then August 2018, we had the OECD complaint about social conditions and putting several companies, especially roasters, on the spot again. And March 2019, GCP began to conceive this new collective action initiative. So it's more than a year since we have been working to build it. It's a lot of work to put partners together on a pre-competitive initiative like this. But just the last spots here for you to understand the situation. We had an important conversation with the SIT, the Secretariat of Work Inspections, is the public body for auditing situations and slave working conditions at farm level. And they invited, they presented this report and invited Impacto, who invited us for an in-person meeting, and they presented their report that had several conditions that worried us and that we need to deal with, and they asked us for bringing solutions. So this initiative is also part of a proposal for solutions for SIT, the Secretariat, and to work together with them to solve this issue. The good thing is that they are open for collaboration and to work together. And so this is quite positive, but we had a meeting with them last week, organized by Impacto again. So thank you again, Mercia, for all the support. And they said, oh, very interesting, but we want to move fast and we want to see actions on the ground. So this is one reason that we are trying to speed up and to approve and start the implementation of this initiative soon to have them on board. And now to conclude and enter the project itself and the initiative, end of last year, we had the first draft of this initiative that we are presenting now. Then beginning of this year, we were defining the KPIs and also defining the activities. And we are right now presenting it to the wide public, expecting to have it launched and officially starting by August 2020. So let's move here. For the ones who are not used to what we call the collective action initiative in GCP, it's basically a pre-competitive co-investment initiative where we try to address the challenges and the collective actions that are not owned by any individual company, but they are sectorial challenges. With this, we try to avoid duplication, and this we are trying also hard, especially working and exchanging a lot. We have other partners like Sustainable Coffee Challenge, like Rainforest Alliance that are working hard also to build initiatives on this side, and we have been engaging and we'll keep engaging with them, trying to combine and create synergies and avoid duplication of efforts. on this process. And also, of course, sharing learnings and results with the sector is part of always the initiatives like this. And of course, bringing impact at field level, that's what we really want. So basically, this initiative...
Sorry for interrupting one moment. If you go back a slide, please. I just want to make everyone aware that in the past we have called them member initiatives. We have recently changed the name to Collective Action Initiative. So if you're familiar with that name, please start to switch over to Collective Action Initiative. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks a lot, Caroline, for the good link, because we have a lot of GCP members and non-members joining us here. So let's continue. Well, basically the main goals for this initiative is, of course, improving living and working conditions. Raise awareness on working conditions in Brazil is important because we see that some leaders and some parts of the chain do not really recognize this as a problem. So we really need to work on it to have it recognized. And also, of course, continuously eliminate the unacceptable labor conditions. This is the core part of the project because, and this is also what CIT, the Secretary of Inspection, asked us. They see that there is a lot to do, but we really want to focus on the unacceptable labor conditions. And we as Brazil, we have, as you all know, a very strong coffee sector, very developed, that enables growers to have profit, fortunately, with high productivity. But sometimes we face some unacceptable labor conditions that we can resolve because it's time, it's possible to resolve it and to solve it. And so let's see how we are proposing to do it soon. Basically, we are looking at two main states, Minas Gerais, that counts for 50% of Brazil's production, and Espírito Santo, that together reaches around 70% of Brazil production, more or less. So that's why the focus in these two states. We're trying to reach at least 5,000 growers directly, but a lot more indirectly in a 4-year strategy. Also training a lot of technicians starting August 2020 up to July 2024. Basically, the coordination, for you to understand, for the ones that are considering supporting this initiative or partnering with us, we are organizing and coordination as Brazil GCP team together with Impacto and Secafé. So we will incorporate a lot of monitoring and evaluation progress during the initiative, and articulate and engage with initiative members, implementing partners. There's a lot of engagement. And Impacto and Secafé will also have the role of co-coordinating the initiative together with us, and of course coordinate specific activities that that Impacto will explain and that I will explain soon. So basically, the organization of the project will be coordinated at high level by a steering committee that will be composed by GCP Brazil, the funding partners, the ones that we hope to confirm soon, Secafé and Impacto. And this steering committee will decide on the activities, will propose new activities, will shape the initiative evolution throughout the 4 years, and will meet 3 times per year by conference call, as we may have people from different countries. So this chart here is basically to try to explain our work. We have several and a lot of activities included. And we will see here what we have, for example, extension services, traders, co-ops, and associations. These are the ones that will conduct the work at field level using GCP tools, meaning coffee sustainability curriculum, our sustainability indicators, our CSC app, our internal management systems, tools that we will not have time to explain now, but that we can explain for the ones that are not aware of later in another moment. But these GCP tools that are already on use by several of GCP members will be combined to other tools like the EVI, the Vulnerability Index for Impacto, that Marcia will explain later a little bit about it. We'll use, of course, GCP Brazil governance, and we incorporate the living wage study that we'll have also some words about that later, and also the Impacto working group that was already happening, as I said in the beginning, and we'll continue with this initiative. The idea is continue the working group, focus on social issues, trying to propose activities and solutions and monitor and evaluate. So basically here you see also how we'll use, for example, with a co-op, the app to collect data using our app that is already available and being used by several members in Brazil. As part of IMS, an internal management system that collects and monitors data by several growers and then by several co-ops or traders or extension services. And then we will combine this data and also check and exchange with the other tools that I mentioned before, the EVI, and using it in the working group and also using it at the GCP Brazil governance structure to really monitor and evaluate and measure progress throughout the 4 years. So here you can see a list of activities and deliverables, just for you to understand a little bit more what we are expecting. First thing would be mapping and diagnosis, one important component for the initiative, with a living wage and living income study for Brazil. And then monitoring the app, as I said, and the Impacto Vulnerability Index. So this component that we'll have more on this soon. Then sectorial education, a strong component on education and creation of awareness, that is key. And using GCP tools for continuous improvement also. Engagement, institutional engagement, multi-stakeholder workshops will be part of the initiative together with Impacto's working group to really raise awareness and the importance of having leaders, organizations, companies, public sector united, working together to solve the issues and to recognize that we do have problems, but also to recognize and to map and analyze that we also have solutions here, and we also have several success cases that can be applied in all countries of the world. And we want to collect both good examples and bad examples to learn with the bad and to share the good ones, and then to promote the good ones and eliminate the bad ones in the country. So communication is also a strong component of this initiative, where we have this positive strategy to not only reply to demands that come, the negative ones, but to have a positive agenda on communication, because we do have a lot of positive things to share on social issues in Brazil for the coffee sector. Sorry. And then we will use a lot of social media, monitoring crises for when they come. And as Annette said in the beginning, we will incorporate COVID-19 prevention and activities related to this, because we see that farmers many times are not really well informed or do not really recognize the problem and the issue. And we know that this COVID-19 is not something that will last only this year. It will continue the next years. So we will incorporate also initiatives on this. And we are also discussing internally more activities related to COVID-19. So if you have any suggestion, please share with us. This is an open initiative. It's open for the participation and open also for the development. So we keep receiving suggestions and they are very welcome. And we also, to conclude, include some regional interventions, like specific actions to mitigate risks of forced labor in specific coffee areas that the project will identify and will work on, linking it to the Sustainable Coffee Region concept that GCP is working for some time already. And search for additional funding is also part of the strategy. We sometimes identified opportunities for funding that we incorporate and try to leverage more results, more resources throughout the years of the implementation. Here you can see a short summary of the timeline of activities of the 4 years. So you can see also how they change throughout the 4 years. Engagement and collective impact and collective actions will happen throughout the 4 years. Search for additional funding, focusing the first 2 years, let's say. Communication improving a lot after for year 2, after collecting the initial data. Mapping and diagnosis. And also educational efforts will be very strong in the year 2 onwards, and regional interventions. So now I hand over to Mercia. Mercia, thanks for joining. Thanks for the partnership again. And please let us know what is Impacto's work, what is Coffee Working Group, and what is Impacto's Vulnerability Index.
Good morning, or good afternoon, good night, everybody. My name is Mercia, and I'm very, very happy to be with you guys in this group. I have a few times to talking about Impacto and what we do here. It's really enjoyable to have a chance to say that. So I will read one piece of information that I wrote so I can keep my time. Impacto is a non-profit organization that has been mobilizing different sectors to promote decent work for more than 15 years. Since the creation of the National Pact for the Eradication of Slavery, we believe in collective actions. Once to solve this issue is a task to be handled by companies, civil society, and governments as well. Once change, the need of cultural change, the need of this behavior need a lot of time and effort, because exploitation of vulnerable people, it's very profitable. Like ILO, the International Labour Organization, says and shows in their research in database. We know that there is a lot of people in that condition in the world. So the task of Impacto is to mobilize companies to commit themselves to keep their supply chain free of slave labor exploitation, with a precautionary approach and promoting decent work, with consciousness improving their policies and practices in their own operation inside of the supply chain. We provide support for companies to have a sign or national pact throughout continuously improvement and management to track the slave labor and ensure decent work. In technical terms, we are doing kind of improving the understanding of social challenges or social problems in a very technical approach, bring data science in a strong and concrete actions that could be evaluated, monitored, and communicated to stakeholders and also outside to the media, to civil society. Because when we try to do something, we have to keep looking the signs of improvement. So saying that, we try to increase knowledge of the nature and extent of forced labor in Brazil. And we have few informations about that in terms of the extension, where is it, who is doing. The information, the more accurate information come from the government, and it's called Dirty List. It's about the inspections and results of the inspections. But that information is just about the actions that were done and freed slaves. And the inspection is not all over Brazil. So we have a lot to discover. The idea is to increase the mobilization of the decision makers in private sector and governments and civil society against forced labor. So we came out with one index. We are calling the index, the vulnerability index of impacto. The idea is bring information from a region or georeference information that could see the local and their vulnerability. So we try to map the regions and create a kind of a weight in terms of their vulnerability. We did big work on Amazon and in Minas Gerais. In Minas Gerais, we analyze, Minas Gerais is where the most of the coffee is made. I know you know that. We have more than 400 variables that help identify the current status of a local populations. This information is about quality of public service management, economic status of the city, human development index, income information, labor opportunities or unemployment rates, child labor informations, inequalities in terms of social and education informations. We have social programs like the family welfare allowance. And so if the municipality has a lot of people in that situation, it's a very vulnerable municipality. So you make all these 400 information and you created this index. Many variables have been separated by gender and race, because we know that in Brazil, this kind of information also make a difference between who have more chance to be exploited. The most important that we are dealing in trying to improve in this program is that coffee is different of cattle, is different of charcoal, is different of forestry. So each sector has a different work specificities, a different demands of a working force, different abilities to be done. So we are going to adapt this index for the coffee sector in Brazil and hope to have more information about the regions where we have coffee and how they can use this information previously to try to implement actions to lower the vulnerability of the workers to be exploited in that region. So that is our goal. In your partnership, we are designing this process together, and we are going to the field to talk with everybody, try to change their minds about human dignity and decent work. So that is part of the goal.
Marcia, thanks a lot. Thanks for the contribution. I know that we are receiving several questions. Thanks for the questions. Please do send us. And here I hand over to Michelle that will explain in a short summary what we are expecting to do with the living wage concept.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for having me. I am excited to be here today with Stephanie Daniels, who's on as well from Sustainable Food Labs, to really talk about the living wage and living income sections of this work and why they're so important and what really those studies mean. So I've been working on this issue for a long time, and what I think is so important to think about is when you're looking at social conditions and you're looking at labor issues anywhere, one of the best sort of signposts and lenses to look at that through is the lens of living wage. And the reason why, and really we're looking at this from a way that aligns with an Anchor methodology of understanding living wages. Living wage is based on the cost of living in an area if you are having appropriate social conditions. So if you're having appropriate abilities to get nutrition and access to education and healthcare and sanitation and water, and understanding what that cost of living is applies both to a living income context for smallholder farmers and a living wage for the workers that are farming coffee and producing coffee. and so what we're looking at here is being able to have a signpost that explains what would that cost be, and what is that wage that's necessary to really overcome some of the challenges related to poor labor conditions and poor social conditions. And that lens also really helps us look at different things like housing and whether it's meeting acceptable conditions to be considered living wage. Living wage is made up of 4 different elements primarily, which is the cost of food, the cost of housing, the cost of non-food, non-housing items that include major essentials like transportation and healthcare and education. And those all come together to then say we need an additional amount for unexpected events. I really sort of outline that right now because in the age of COVID-19, I think we all understand unexpected events a lot more than we might have in the past. But it really offers a tremendous look and a tremendous snapshot of how to cover those levels. And that works in a way that is both locally specific and really will measure on the ground in the areas of this work what is necessary to achieve a living wage, but also internationally comparable by aligning with the work of others and really keeping in nature of the sense of being pre-competitive in this work and allowing that are being used around the world. So I'm really excited to be working on pulling together these benchmarks because I think this issue of living wage and living income does really touch on so many of the risks that exist for poor social conditions and for poor slave labor. If you can ensure that people can afford a decent living, then you're really covering what some of the concerns could be. And you're also really looking at some of the in-kind benefits that are offered and understanding whether they are really making sure that we are ensuring good social conditions across the board. So I really want to put this out there. It's a tremendous lens that can incorporate into this project. It really goes back to what Mirza said as well about having a scientific way of approaching everything. Living wage and living income estimates really do that. And also back to what Pedro talked about recognition of the issue. By looking at this cost of living and what's necessary and the gaps that exist on where those risks will arise and where they really exist in wages and in production and incomes. So that's it from me, and Steffi and I will be here to answer questions.
Thank you, Michelle. Let's move on. I know that we don't have enough time to really dig into all these elements. We are receiving good questions. Thanks for sharing. And we will reply all of them by email if we don't have time in this session. But besides that, this is an overview on what we are planning. And for the ones that are interested, we will set some further alignment to describe what we are planning. So don't worry. I know that it's not enough time to really understand everything. This is a complex initiative involving many, many partners. So just a few words on KPIs that we are looking for and improvements and impact. So as Marcia well said, we have the issues on forced labor or not good conditions for labor. And we really want to focus on these, the worst conditions to really decrease them significantly as a major focus. So 80% of decrease in the identified incidents related to forced slave working, but this we will always talk about the population or the growers that are involved in the project that of course we will have control. So we will have several implementing partners, like I said before, cooperatives, extension services, traders, that will implement the activities, and these partners, we will focus these KPIs on these partners on a selected group in each partner. So we focus 100% of coffee farmers with 0 cases of child labor. I know this seems to be challenging for many countries, but for Brazil, we consider it's feasible and it's possible to reach that after 4 years in the growers that we will be working on. 100% of coffee farmers earning at least the national official minimum wage that we have it for Brazil. That is today around 1,000 reais. And so to guarantee that workers get at least this. And also 50% on improvement on social criteria related to PPE, for example, protection equipment, not necessary for agrochemicals, but for other parts of the work, including harvesting, potable water, sanitary facilities, and housing and lodging conditions. That is also key and very important. We plan to have this sectorial pact uniting the whole country and the whole segment in one pact to really work together to eliminate. I mentioned in the beginning that this pact was already launched by Impact in 2018, but the idea is to make it stronger and to include many other partners and to really work to get it going as a concrete pact where everybody will be aligned and working together in the same direction. And establishing, of course, a commitment of good working conditions and improving it in its own supply chain. So an overview here on the budget that we have so far, for covering all these activities that I showed before. We estimated around $1.6 million for 4 years of investments that will be funded by several partners, including GCP members, non-members, and other funding partners. And we will also use these resources, of course, to cover the activities, the monitoring, evaluation, and the administration of the initiative itself. And now here, you can understand better how you can make a difference if you are interested, and how could you join this initiative that, as I said, is totally open for the ones that wants to work together with this concept and also support building or even revising it and improving it. So we have the co-funding partners that wants to co-fund it and can. We have the implementing partners, basically, as I said, cooperatives, traders, and extension services. We have also other partners that already confirmed. CNC, our Coffee National Council for Brazil, that represents Brazilian cooperatives, has already confirmed as a partner for the project. And we are inviting here in this session GCP members and non-members to really work together. And of course, being part of the change that we want to promote together, improving the social sustainability and leveraging your resources by joining. So the investment per company is smaller, but you invest in a large project that will have larger impacts and will contribute to the change and to the continuous improvement of the Brazilian coffee sector. We want really to build a structure that we are basically already building, but with this initiative, we will leverage and scale it up a lot by improving these mechanisms and these tools that will be there after the project is over as an exit strategy. So these tools keep as part of the work of the traders, cooperatives, extension services that deals with growers, and they keep moving after the 4 years of the project, using them to monitor, to understand, to map, and to eliminate degrading working conditions. So here, as I will share with you some next steps just for you to understand where we are. and what we are planning. So after this session, May, that is already next week, we'll be sharing with the interested parties the proposals with more details. So please, if you are interested on knowing more about this initiative, get in touch with us. We will share our contacts at the end. So just let us know that you are interested and you want to learn more. We will set more calls or webinars or bilateral calls, whatever is needed to let the partners really understand what is being proposed in a deeper way. So we expect from May to June to get feedback and alignment with the potential partners of this initiative. Then from June to July, the definition of these partners, so to get an agreement and approve the project and the initiative. And then by July, expecting to sign the contracts to start the implementation by August. So this is basically the next steps that we look forward. And again, especially in the coming weeks, we will be having these smaller calls to really dig into the details, and for the ones that are interested in joining in the several ways that you may join as a funding partner, as an implementing partner, or as a partner that would contribute to the whole part of the initiative. So here I would like to start the process of questions and answers. We received a lot. Not sure if we will be able to cover them all. Thanks for sending, and please keep sending because we will reply them by email if not possible here. But let me get some of them here so we can reply. Just 1 second, please. There is one question here that is asking about the participation of the public sector. Well, yes, public sector is involved in some layers and levels. First, they are part of our governance structure of Brazil, and they are, of course, as a Ministry of Agriculture, and also the Secretaries of State, and also the public extension services of the states. They are part of our governance structure of Brazil Working Group, and also of the National Advisory Board. So by this, they will keep involved and engaging with the project. As I said before, we will use the project to take inputs and to receive inputs from this governance body. Then besides that, the partnership that I mentioned with the Secretary of Inspection, the SEAT, that is willing to have a partnership. They really want to see coffee sector driving solutions for this issue. They are worried, especially because of the situation they identified in the report, but also they saw and they gave us an opportunity to work together. What we saw is very positive because usually they only want to do the auditings and to go and to set the bills for the farmers to pay, or to, trying to solve in the negative way. But now they are really open for collaboration. And we see it as a very good opportunity to really look for the worst conditions and eliminate them. And also to show with this initiative that it's possible and it's feasible to produce coffee without degrading working conditions. We really believe on that. We have already examples in the country, several, but we know we do also have problems that we need to face and to solve.
Pedro,
yes,
we have a question here about how will the technicians be selected for the initiative? And also, if any violation in social issues is found during the initiative, how will it be tackled? Will the government be involved or not?
Yes, good question. Thanks, Maria. Well, first question, the technicians that will join will be the technicians of the implementing partners, like co-ops, extension services, traders, and associations that will join the initiative. So while we will be confirming the funding partners, we will also be confirming the implementing partners. And these technicians will come from these initiative, these entities, and will be exactly their technicians that will be trained, that will receive, that will use the CSC app to collect data, and that will participate in the workshops, and will have the information. The whole concept is that we want to identify bad working conditions, or before the Secretary of Inspections go there, or before the regular auditing, as part of the regular dynamics or the regular work of one cooperative, one trader, or one extension services. So the technicians that visit the grower to support him on, for example, fertilization, increasing productivity, or whatever, will be trained to look for bad working conditions. And if they identify, they will, of course, generate this information, get this data, and take it to the management of the cooperative, let's say, and they, in their internal management system, will have a procedure to either correct and talk to the grower. The grower can correct. Sometimes the grower is not aware, that's not compliant. Sometimes they do it on purpose because they are not really convinced of the importance of having good conditions. So we have different situations that we will need to analyze and of course this decision will come from the cooperative, the trader, the extension services, but the concept behind is exactly that by identifying this before, they can try to solve, or even if they cannot solve, the grower really wants to keep working on that way, they cannot buy coffee from this specific grower as, like, let's say, but this will not be the preference. The preference would be, of course, to solve the issue and to support the farmer to avoid that. And we will not be play the role of auditors for the government, let's say, and putting them on a bad situation with the project. The idea is to solve the issue. But of course, if the public sector comes and identified the issue, then it's regular work that they do. It's part of the process. But usually we will build a structure to identify, map, and avoid the worst working conditions even before that the public sector gets there.
We have another question about living wage and living income studies, if the initiative is working together with partners such as fair trade certification.
Yes. Well, we have talked to fair trade on the meeting, on the General Assembly we had for GCP. They were interested, so fair trade is, of course, open to join. And this initiative, I don't know if Michelle, if you want to add something from your side on the living wage, but just to complement, would you, Michelle?
Sure, absolutely. So I would say one thing is that the work that Fair Trade is doing and other standard systems globally is aligning with one methodology, the Anchor methodology of estimating a living wage. And from what I understand, this will also align with that same work and the work that's already been done by the Global Living Wage Coalition on looking at living wages in certain areas of Brazil. So there's certainly an effort there from my understanding to make that alignment as smooth as possible.
Also, Michelle, there's another question concerning living wage. Is how do living wage affect the owner of the farm if he or she is already poor?
Right. So that's a great question, and that is where the concept of living income comes in. And I'll invite Stephanie to say something in just a moment about that. But let me just give an overview from a living wage perspective. Living income is going to ensure that, for example, a farmer is able to achieve a decent income for themselves or their family and contributes to an overall household income that might have other inputs. A true living income means that you should be able to cover costs of living on what is being earned while paying anyone that is working for you, inclusive of, let's say, family members that are in different households, and a living wage. So it shouldn't be, the reason both of these concepts are brought up is that living wage shouldn't be at the detriment of a farm owner who then isn't able to achieve a living income. They really have to go hand in hand, and one has to understand that the income of the farmer needs to be protected, and they need to be enabled through what they're receiving to pay a living wage. So Stephanie, I don't know if you want to expand on living income a bit, or if that covers it.
Thank you, Michelle. I'll just add very quickly, Pedro, that I think the living income component of this initiative is really to refine the knowledge around economic viability parameters in different scales of farms in these two states. So the parameters of farm size, minimum productivity levels, cost of production that will then enable living income by in different situations. And I just say maybe finally on the connection with fair trade, our role also in the as a host of the living income community of practice is to ensure that GCP is linked to very similar work happening in different countries. I know there's been some comments around different similar work happening in India, other origins. Important to have an active link with the emerging best practices being used in various sectors and also other geographies.
Thanks, Stephanie. Just to complement also, Fair Trade is a member of GCP, is a member of our Brazil working group, our technical working group. So as members, they also can contribute and already do contribute in the Brazil working group discussions, the one that we have to solve and develop the technical issues of our initiatives. And just also to complement Stephanie and Michelle, by the living wage cannot guarantee profit, but we want to show where the profit is and how growers are reaching profit and how they are not reaching profited. And we know it's really linked to productivity levels, not only, but definitely it is. So by you doing this in different regions, in different archetypes of growers, in different regions of Minas and Espírito Santo, we want the study to support and show what is the minimum product, what's the minimum farm level and what is the minimum productivity level that needs the grower to have a profit and to reach profit. So this is the reply we want to get with this approach, and this will benefit, of course, the discussions of the entire world and even each in different countries to have this type of information.
Another question here. Is the project design finished already? Are we able to discuss and suggest changes to it?
Yes, good question. Thanks, Maria. Yes and no, it's not finished. It's totally open. Of course, we cannot change everything because we already took a long to develop all this, but we can incorporate new ideas. They are very welcome. Please share with us. And we used to say that this type of initiative, they are quite open even after they start, because the steering committee will have the power to define, and we, together with Impacto and with Secafé, will be able to recommend during the initiative, let's say year 2. So we see the need for a slight change on this direction to incorporate this new idea. So the steering committee approves, we send a proposal and it approves. So now and during, it is possible to incorporate new ideas, because this is a very, very complex issue, you all know well. not easy to be solved, and we will need to be incorporating the learnings and the process during the implementation.
There's another question here. Is it planned social dialogue to involve representations of the whole coffee production chain, for example, worker representatives? Is there any estimation of monitoring the evolution of workers, of working conditions with preventive visits to the farmers?
Yes, good questions. Yes, prevented visits to the farmers. Yes, as already said, it's part of the strategy with the technicians, with the organizations doing this as part of the project. But then involving workers and workers' organizations, definitely, it will happen in different layers also, in different levels. So we have several workshops planned that Impacto will conduct and lead and organize to have a debate. And in these workshops, there's regional workshops with the chain that will be important to increase awareness and to raise awareness also on the importance of this issue, but also to hear growers' voices. And that's also one reason where we are trying to incorporate other organizations, and CNC is a production and growers organization of cooperatives, and that is already confirmed the participation in the project. And we want to have more, and we will have more of them also participating at the national level and also at regional level in these different layers of action that we will have.
Another question that came in, what is the criteria for choosing farmers with 0 cases of child labor? Are we not going to include familiar farmers, or are we just going to take the ones who don't count their children?
No, the idea is not choosing farmers with 0 child labor, is to guarantee that after 4 years of the project, the farmers that are involved in the project have 0 child labor. So they can have situations of child labor in the beginning, but at the end, we want to have 0 in the farmers that are involved. Of course, we cannot guarantee for the whole sector, unfortunately, but we will work on that also with the pact. The pact is also where we want to have commitment from other participation, from other stakeholders that will commit also to fight against child labor. But child labor specifically, I have been 15 years on the ground in Brazil, visiting and knowing many, many different realities of coffee production. And we know that it is not the largest issue for Brazil. And we know it is possible to really work on that, even including family workers and smallholders that will be part of the initiative. And please, Mercy and Lilian, if you want to add anything, anytime, feel free to support here responding the questions. I hope this clarifies the child labor component. But we see that Brazil is well advanced on this topic. It's not really an issue that is everywhere. Depending on the region, depending on the situation, you may find problems. And in these cases, we see it that it's possible to solve it with the project and with this commitment for the whole sector to work towards it.
And I guess we have time for, oh, excuse me.
I just want to say that fortunately, Brazil has a lot of data and information on terms of child labor, and our index could monitoring the number of child in terms of school age and the offer of schools in the region. So you can see if there is enough schools, enough children going to schools, or a lot of children have no chance to go to school, so increase the risk to have child labor. All this is small information we are trying to measure on our index to help to take decision and make strong or medium actions on that issues on the regions that we are going to work. So that is important to say. We have all information in Brazil about the number of schools, transportations, teachers, kids that was born in school age, child labor. That is good in Brazil, so we can use that kind of data.
Yes, thank you, Marcia. And just to complement, the EVI, the Vulnerability Index of Impacto, will be a very important tool throughout the project, because it will provide us and to the whole group of partners that are involved in the project a good reference where the risks are higher. Also, for the implementing partners, use this information to combine with the that they are collecting on the ground with the CSE app, but then looking at the information at the index and knowing where the worst situation is, where the higher risks are. And by combining these two tools, you can better direct your resources and your actions to really solve the issues that are identified. And we will be using the consolidated data coming from the app and also combining it with the EVI, the index, the vulnerability index, to really set a working plan for the initiative itself to try to address, because we know that the worst and the higher risks come from specific regions, so you can really map it with the index, and will be a very important tool for the initiative.
And we have time for one final question. Question just arrived. Are other third parties or independent organizations involved in the verification of the KPIs and monitoring of activities?
Yes, well, in fact, we are working with the entities that we already mentioned in this initiative, but as I said, it's open. But it's important to understand the concept. We are proposing that each entity will establish a monitoring evaluation system, but the reason for this is to work on continuous improvement. So they want and they need to understand and to identify the issues they have for them to improve and to use it in favor of this entity, of this. So it's basically a continuous improvement process where this entity wants to know where the problem is and, of course, solve it. And it's part of the project to convince the entities to understand and to get to know where the problem is. And if one, for example, roaster or anyone wants to have this information checked, we will check as part of the project as the coordinators. We will check and have samples to check it, also to guarantee the quality of the data. But this always can be also audited by third parties according to the need of the specific implementing partners that wants to guarantee better, or even to show better that the data that he is providing is according to reality. Please take note on the contacts, mine and Caroline also, for questions that you may have. We are very open to receive suggestions, recommendations, also including the COVID actions that we are incorporating as part of this initiative, as it really relates to social well-being. And we will be glad to continue this engagement with the interested parties on joining this initiative. So please reach out to us.
I would just say, Pedro, if there are continuing questions around the living wage, living income, I think Michelle and I certainly are here to support the team in Brazil and GCP on bringing resources, answers to that. So if there are remaining ones, we could support and have it sent out with GCP.
Yes, exactly, Stephanie. We know that it's not possible to solve all the questions on 1 hour and 15 minutes, and all these items could have a specific webinar on it. But what we planned for this session was exactly an overview on what we are planning and proposing. And now, in the next steps, we can really detail and respond to specific questions and have your contribution and participations.
I also have had a comment here, people asking to receive other questions answers as well, because they think the subject is very interesting and they would like to receive the answers we give to individual questions by email as well.
And please, if someone wants to send questions to me, my email also is on the chat if you want to talk with me as well about Ivy and anyway. Thank you.
Yes, and if we receive, Marcia, questions regarding Ivy and Impacto, we will share with you also. So yes, you can send it directly to Marcia or to us. Anyway, we will reply and Marcia will contribute to the reply.
Yes, so this is Caroline again shortly. So yes, questions will all be answered. We can also add them on to the slides. The recording of this webinar, we will share that with the participants who were here on the call today, and it will also be available on GCP's website as well, the presentation and the recording.
So just a final comment, Caroline, thanks everyone for joining. Thanks everyone for the good questions, for the participation. And thank you all the partners that we have, especially Secafé and Impacto, and also CNC that confirmed joining the initiative, but also Michelle and Stephanie for the contribution on the living wage and living income that we consider will be very interesting and will provide good data and information for the continuous improvement of Brazil's coffee sector. Thanks a lot, and please keep in touch and let's continue the discussion to really implement this project soon. I hope you all have a good day and please be safe on these hard times that we are facing. Thanks a lot.